We tested the movie. It was all handled by the Columbia marketing distribution people. And remember saying specifically, let's be really careful about showing this movie to an audience, saying, from the director of Seven and Fight Club and starring the Academy Award-winning actress and star of Silence of the Lambs, you're going to be promising a kind of a movie that's different than what this is. This movie is an entertainment. This movie is designed as a sort of fastball down the center of the plate, and it should be rough around the edges, and it should be a little uncompromised, and it should be a little harder to love. And they said, yeah. And so they went out and said, do you want to see the new movie from the director of Seven and Fight Club, starring the star of Silence of the Lambs? And they had a bunch of people there who were expecting to see Seven crossed with Fight Club, crossed with Silence of the Lambs. And so this movie was too light for them. And that was a lot of the comments that we heard. If you're going to make this kind of an entertainment, you should have Forrest get away. And it's that same old thing you get with a focus group, which is a little bit of power is a little too much power. If people wanted to choose the ending of their movies would be a lot cheaper because you wouldn't have to get people who make movies to make them. You could get anybody to make them. And the fact is that sometimes what the audience wants is not the best thing for the story in the end, And it can be different for, if you screen a movie at 4 p.m, there's a different expectation for that 2-hour period than there is if you screen a movie at 10 o'clock at night. It's a different thing. You can't, you're never going to please everybody, and you're never going to give everyone what they want. So you kind of have to be able to go, okay, well, this is a valid criticism and this isn't. The definitely kind of threw everybody at the studio, and they wanted desperately to reshoot the ending so that Forrest got away. But I couldn't really stomach that. It just seemed like it would be wussing out. If there's anything that we learned from the test screening of this movie specifically, it was that we didn't have to dot all the I's as specifically as we thought. That the audience was willing to roll with it, and that if positioned as a movie, they were willing to suspend the necessary disbelief in order to make this ride work. But the movie was pretty. I think our first cut was 1:57 or something. I think it only came down like 4 minutes, 2 minutes or something. The value of any kind of a preview screening is to see your movie and see the backs of 400 people's heads. So you can see where they're getting bored. You can see where they're confused. You can see when they get restless. You can feel all that stuff. You don't have to put an E-meter on everybody in the audience. You can get it. I mean, you're a reasonably perceptive individual. You can sit in the back of a theater and watch a movie that you made with an audience and know the stuff that you can change and stuff that you can't change. And you have a really good idea of the material that's available, and you can kind of feel when you're losing him. So all that stuff, I think it's valuable for that. I think it's valuable to sit there and watch people watch your movie, because at some point you're going to have to, and you can learn from them. And it doesn't matter how intricately something's planned or how beautifully it's carried off if the audience doesn't understand it. And they have to be able to understand it, or enough of them have to be able to understand it in order to make it a viable commercial proposition. But aside from that, I think it is the byproduct of our kind of corporate culture and the vertical integration of media companies, where we sit there and we go, we can put it in front of a focus group and they can tell us what's the best way to present the idea that we initially loved to them. If you're going in looking for them to save you and to give you something that would never have occurred to you, it's probably not going to happen. And quite honestly, a movie is a movie. It's like at the time you do the rough cut, you're going to refine it, you're going to make it better. But that's pretty much what it is. You're not going to take Leprechaun and turn it into Chicago with a couple more weeks of editing. And no matter how much, the audience goes, it would really be great if they sang and danced.